Important topic. About 6 months ago, I don't know if any of you saw the news that FedEx fired their biggest customer. Did anyone see that news? Their biggest customer being Amazon. Friend or foe? So who would have thought 15 years ago an online bookseller, Amazon, would be a cloud provider, would be going into the logistics business, would be going into the medical insurance business. So it's a changing world. We all know that. We all see changes around us with, Airbnb coming in and disrupting the hotel industry. So that's what we're going to talk about. How do companies deal with that? What does that mean for sales leaders? And as it turns out, digital leadership is really about business leadership. And I'll talk more about that later, but it's, some people might be in the room, might be a little intimidated by technology, and really it's about business leadership, cultural change. There's a lot of evidence that you can't actually be effective with technology without the organizations coming along. And in fact, technology changes much more rapidly than an organization can possibly change. So all of us as sales leaders and business leaders need to help our sellers and our organizations move forward. So I'm going to start out with a few facts about the changing landscape digital's making. So 30% of businesses are monetizing their information assets. That's going to 100%. If you're not doing that, you'll be out of business. So what does that look like? Think about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is arguably the biggest career database on the planet, and we all willingly give them our data, put our CVs and resumes into the database. LinkedIn is taking that digital asset and monetizing it. And the way they're doing that, well, many ways they're doing that, but one way I want to highlight is they're working with companies and countries to help them build a workforce of the future. So for example, they're working with the country of Singapore, and they're looking at the current skill profile they have in the country and what they believe is needed to be competitive in the future, and then building a skilling plan using LinkedIn training resources and charging for that service. So they're taking the data that they have as an asset and now monetizing it. So that's one example. And when you think about companies with products like hard products, like airplanes, like Boeing, they sell predictive analytics for fuel and maintenance optimization to about 300 airlines. So they're in the data delivery business. And this is common across all industries. Goodyear tires, they look at the wear of tires by vehicle type in different cities, and they then take that data, they sell it back to the automotive industry, brake manufacturers, et cetera. So that's what I mean about monetizing digital assets. It's usually high value, high margin data, or it's a more profitable business to wrap that kind of data services around a product. So 84% of CEOs expect digital selling to increase profit margins. Digital selling meaning how are you going to add value to the product or service you're offering, leveraging that data. So that has implications for sellers and sales leaders. Companies that digitally transform, get 100 million more annually in operating income. So a lot of evidence again. And 60% of digital strategies will drive 60% of the IT spend. And 60% of companies, of CEOs, plan to build out digital capabilities in-house. And what that means is they're looking at how important and mission critical these digital capabilities are. And so, yes, companies are using cloud services for scale and compute, but there's a lot of work also being done in-house, which is an opportunity as well. So when I look what CEOs are saying about digital transformation, a few themes emerge. So speed matters. Meg Whitman has a saying, which I love, is the future belongs to the fast. So everything is rapid. Product introductions are rapid. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. I talked about how technology is changing more quickly than companies can adopt that change. And when you think about the communications, a mobile phone, when's the last time you pulled over to the side of the road to make a phone call in a phone booth? That never happens. There's no phone booths anymore. So much more rapid. And trust matters. It begins with trust. So in a digital world, things can go wrong very rapidly, and cyber attacks, how we handle issues matters. If you look at Boeing, they have the 737 MAX challenge, and their revenues have really slowed down. And so they're one of the board level, CEO level initiatives is build transparency and trust, not only with customers, but also with their own teams. So they're putting safety governance initiatives in place because they know that their business depends on it and their future depends on it. And that's no different than other companies, particularly in a digital world. Product introductions have changed. So it used to be companies would go in the back room and do development and come out with a product every, let's say, 3 years. Now there's rapid introductions of products, and companies across all industries are doing minimally viable products. And they're taking those to market and then working with some early adopter customers to kind of add capabilities to those products. And that's happening throughout the industry. And in fact, my last role at Microsoft, I was a sales leader for a brand new product. And when I took on that role, we had 0 customers. Microsoft launched the product in 5 countries, the UK being one of them. We hired a sales team of 15 sellers across those 5 countries because we didn't want to slow down the revenue and kind of bother the mainstream sellers with this incubation product. So when you think about that, that is a dedicated sales force for just this early product. It was to manage customers' desktops in their environment. And it takes different skills. You need to have sellers that are willing to try things. We ended up changing the sales cycle. We realized that our sales cycle that we had created needed to be adjusted, and we needed to do a lot more technical validation and technical fit earlier in the sales cycle than we had done with other products. And so that's not an unusual thing. So as you build with your sales teams, how do you think about product introductions? How do you take the insights that come from the customers back to engineering and development? I ended up mid-year having to refocus the team and target different customers because we weren't moving with the velocity we thought we would. And so I ended up taking the data and the information back from the sellers, combining it with some customer profile data, and then we looked at refocusing and targeting the sales teams. We also ended up lowering our ambition. We thought we had such a great product and we could sell lots of it, so we ended up doing smaller sales, basically, with the objective of new customer wins. We didn't have revenue objectives, we had new customer wins. And that is appropriate for where we were at that stage in the sales cycle. So I highlight that as an example of how we introduce products. But again, for your own business, you need to think about, okay, what does that mean? Are you going to have a dedicated sales force? Likely, I recommend you do that so you don't mess up your main revenue stream. Our role as sellers with customers and partners has changed. we move from transactional, from sales being an organization to dispense of inventory, to ongoing relationships. So in a cloud world, it's really easy to change to your competitor. And so you'll see, customer success organizations. I'm of the belief that the sales team still ultimately owns the relationship with the customer and the ongoing success, and it's up to sellers to help shorten the time to value. Because customer success, I've seen often will devolve into a support ticket, organization, or they will be actually a quota, they'll have a quota for renewals, and so they will have a vested interest, but they'll also be part of the sales arm. So I think we haven't, as an industry, kind of settled in on what the best model is, but ultimately I see sales as still owning the long-term relationship for the customer.